Jim.
Are we live?
We are now. People are starting to come in.
This is super. Welcome.
It is. It's Super Thursday. Hey, everybody. It is Thursday night, and that means another episode of the Redox 5. Going to be with you all summer long, taking over Alan Noble's spots while he is vacationing in Ireland.
He will be here August the 14th.
Yeah, you just confirmed.
Okay, well then not August 15th. So, but anybody, as we're getting set up and introducing everybody, tell us who you are and where you're calling in from. We like to welcome people from all over the world to our call, and we really appreciate you spending this time with us. So let's see who we've got so far. Let's see.
Phil Latham,
Welcome.
Dee Dee in Arizona. Hi, everyone from Colorado Springs.
Faster.
Lion in Australia.
Oh, man.
Colorado. I saw Atlanta in the house. Hot Atlanta, Australia.
Yeah, California, Singapore.
Melbourne.
Nashville, Gold Coast. Cool. People from everywhere. It's awesome. Love it.
Oklahoma. Fantastic. Well, okay, you guys might as well go ahead and get started because we have a fan.
Hey, can I just kind of do something real quick? Well, no, I just want to make sure that, guys, we keep the chat on Asea if you want to ask questions, but please don't get off track and say things. We don't, Maureen is a doctor, but she's not going to answer specific doctor questions. Just kind of keep the questions on topic, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Maureen.
Okay, scolding. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Maureen Hayes from Galveston, Texas. Excuse me, getting over a little cough. And I'm joined here by our regulars, Jim and Ann Glenn from San Antonio, Texas. Jim's our big money man, and Ann is our beautiful nutritionist and personal trainer. And of course, we have Dr. Lee Osler, who needs no introduction, author of several different books on Redox. His website is redoxmatters.com. And also one of the 100 top dentists in the world, voted for by his peers. Absolutely amazing credentials. And tonight, like I said, we have a fan favorite back with us, Russell Mariani, who is with us from Ontario, Canada, his summer home, as he likes to say. He was just telling us about being on the lake and sea glass coming up on the shores. Pretty cool. He is a gut specialist, and we just love having him on here. He's written a couple of different books that are available on Amazon.com. And he said he has a third in the works, but I'm not really sure about that. But it's on one of our favorite topics. What's that, Jim?
Well, it's about poo-poo. It's about going doo-doo.
You know, you can't.
Make sure you keep going doo-doo, Maureen.
That title I sent in earlier, that was a joke title.
I figured as much, but you know what? People would buy it. I think people would buy it. It was kind of the scoop on poop. So, you know what? You're going to get it tonight. You can't talk gut.
Did you say the new scoop on poop? Oh man,
that'll be Russell's next book. I know you. I know you were going to get into it, Jim. So might as well get it going from the start.
All right. Well, that's Lee's favorite topic as well. So don't still blame it on me.
It's not really us. It's David Silverman. We should have had him on.
Yeah, I know he started it.
Yeah, Dr. David Silverman loves to talk about that. But Russell Mariani, come on and tell us, basically, give us a little bit of your background, if you don't mind. Talk about your books. And talk about how you've been introduced to Asea, what you've seen in your own clinic. And, you know, I mentioned earlier that I've been having so many questions on the gut and on inflammatory conditions of the gut. So if you could spend a little bit of time also talking about that and how our products work in the gut to help alleviate some of these things, I'd really appreciate it. But before we get started, since I'm saying all these things, Dr. Lee, come on and give us our disclaimer.
Dr. Lee went bye-bye.
There he is.
Oh, he's back.
There he is.
He's back.
Now you can do it.
Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. And thank you, Dr. Maureen and Jim and Ann. And Dr. Poop, I don't know what else to call you, but tonight's going to be a real gut check, I'm sure. So,
oh, here we go. Have you been working on that all day, Lee?
I think I might have been, yes, in my dream.
Yeah. Maureen's bright red right now.
I am red. I don't know why.
Well, you know, this is an important point in our exchange tonight is to clarify, what our disclaimer is. We're all independent associates of a company named Asea Global. They're all through the world. We've got 34 countries that we're dealing this product in and helping people all over the world get better. In all of those countries, including the United States, the FDA has registered this product as a supplement. And so as such, we do not make claims to treat, diagnose, or cure. We leave it at that level, and you'll hear us as we get going and other occasions as well, address the issues of why this is not a drug, why this is not in the big pharma arena, which is where it was originally appointed when the biotech company was doing this. And so with that said, we're going to talk about its amazing benefits for cellular health, especially as it relates to the gut. So thanks, Russell.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, everyone out there in the global Asea community. It's one of the highlights of my month or season is to be here on the Redox 5. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some of the things I've learned in the last 50 plus years of my own healing journey, and certainly the last 14 years since I first learned about redox signaling molecules. Actually, I was thinking about it today, and I thought it would be fun to share this brief memory of Virtus. This is the first opportunity I've had since the passing of Virtus Norton to express my gratitude to him and my condolences to the Norton family. But I was very lucky I was introduced to Asea in June of 2011 from a dear friend of mine who had been suffering terribly from a condition caused by a tick bite. And he had literally been suffering for 10 years, had invested a small personal fortune trying to find solutions, literally had traveled around the world investing a lot of money, and nothing had worked. And I had seen him in person in January of 2011, and he was not doing well at all. In fact, I didn't think he was going to survive like the next 6 months. So he called me in June of 2011, and I could tell right away from his voice that he was better. And so I interrupted him, and I said, his name is Art Robbins. I said, Art, what happened? What did you find? You must have discovered something. And he paused and said, redox signaling molecules. And of course, I had never heard of that term before. And so it was based on his improvement. And then through conversations that I had with Dr. Gary Samuelson and Dr. Rob Ward back in those early days, that I got very interested. And I did a fly-in in August of 2011 to either the convention. It was either the first or it's probably the second convention, 2011. And the next morning, I was in a meeting with Virtus Norton and Tyler Norton. Alan Noble was at that meeting, and about 20 other people who I all knew because they were there from another network marketing company. We were all part of this other company, and we were there to learn about Asea. And so I literally got to hear the Genesis story live and direct and in person from Virtus himself. Virtus and Tyler shared that story that morning. And after Virtus told the story of how Asea came to be, how this technology, how he came across this technology, and how he had hired Gary Samuelson, Dr. Gary Samuelson, to stabilize the molecules, and the whole story of how they had said no to the pharmaceutical company and yes to the people. It was just very, very inspiring. And then we went around the room, and each person got to share why they were there and what they had learned so far about, Asea Redox. And when it came to my turn, of course, I was already very thankful and grateful for the opportunity to be inside the Asea community. But what I had shared was that through my own healing crisis at a young age, in 1973, when I was 18 years old, I had been misdiagnosed with colon cancer, and then the doctors settled on a diagnosis of ulcerative colitis, which is an inflammatory bowel condition, which we'll talk more about in a few minutes. And I tried many things. The doctor basically said the medical option was surgery or to be on medication for the rest of my life. And I was 18 years old. I had never been sick ever before in my life, and nothing serious. And so I kept asking the doctor, why did this happen? Does this have anything to do with my diet? And his answer changed my life, because he said, no, it has nothing to do with your diet. We don't know what causes these conditions, stress. And he left it at that and left the room. So, but I had eventually, took me a couple years, and I found an approach to healing all kinds of chronic degenerative conditions. And it was basically using a traditional diet approach. And in that traditional dietary approach, I read my first book in the world of natural healing. And in the dedication of that book, it said, this work of teaching people about traditional diets and safe alternatives to the natural healing process, the goal is to create a more peaceful world through the biological transformation of humanity. And that was the phrase, that was the quote that I shared with Vertus and Tyler that morning in 2011, because I had already dedicated my life to this idea that the body was fully capable of healing itself once we, the owner of the body, learned how to cooperate more consistently with those natural healing abilities, with our innate healing capabilities. And even though I was only 2 months into my Asea journey, I recognized clearly that this technology has the ability to, as Dr. Lee says, awaken our inner doctor, awaken those innate healing capabilities, and allowing cells and organs and systems of the body to repair damage and restore their function. So I'm very grateful to be here. I'm very grateful to have been introduced by a friend to Asea, as all of us were. Not probably every single person who's watching this webinar tonight was called or texted or invited at some point by someone who had already benefited from these amazing molecules, and that's why we're all here. And it really is a breakthrough. And in preparing for tonight's conversation, I thought once again that it really is a miracle. It really is a breakthrough of the highest order, the highest significance. And I myself know that as much as anybody in the community. And yet, day after day, I get caught up like everyone else in my life and in my work and in different things. But I genuinely try every day to reach out to at least one new person to introduce them to this amazing technology. So let me stop there. I'm sure you have questions and where we want to take the conversation.
Great intro.
Well, real quick, if you don't mind, Russell, there may be quite a few new people listening live or the recording. What exactly are we talking about? What exactly are these molecules? And I loved your intro. By the way, I took multiple notes, but what are they? What is this all about?
So redox signaling molecules are just that. They are signaling molecules. They are communication molecules. They are messenger molecules my understanding is that nothing happens inside the cell without the assistance of redox signaling molecules. They are literally manufactured in the mitochondria of every cell of our body. And depending on the type of cell it is, you could have 15 or 20 or 50 mitochondria, or you could have 5,000 mitochondria. Like in a heart cell, you have many, many hundreds of mitochondria. So depending on the health of the cell, depending on the hydration of that person, the micronutrient profile of that person, the relative toxicity of that person, as they age, makes less and less of these amazing, important, vital, essential, crucial redox signaling molecules. Literally nothing happens without the assistance of these molecules. And a few of the most important things that a cell does as it's living its life, as it's maintaining homeostasis, as it's performing its miraculous functions, all kinds of things happen in the course of a normal day that could potentially damage the cell. If the redox potential of that cell is normal, then that cell, because of the presence of the redox molecules, can detect the damage as it's occurring and repair the damage and avoid catastrophe, avoid illness, avoid sickness, avoid degeneration. So that's what happens when we have normal amounts of redox signaling molecules. But due to aging, normal aging, due to environmental stress, environmental pollution, poor quality food, lack of proper hydration, lack of exercise, a lack of good sleep, all the other things that typically cause the body to function less than normal or normally, those same factors adversely affect the production of these redox signaling molecules. So what we have with the Asea redox technology is a bioreplenishment product. Inside every bottle of Asea and tube of Renew 28 and now Redox Gold are bioactive redox signaling molecules. And the simplest way for me to understand it and explain it is, as we take in these molecules, we restore back to normal levels the redox potential of our cells. And when we do that, the cells restore their functioning. And that can translate into many, many amazing benefits. But maybe the most important benefit is we live younger longer. We can reverse the aging process. I turned 70 years old a couple of months ago, and I feel healthier overall than I did at age 56 when I was first introduced to these amazing molecules. And if you had asked me at age 56 if I was healthy, I would have said yes. I didn't have any major complaints, but I had a whole long list of minor complaints, including some aches and pains from old athletic injuries that I had lived with for almost 40 years up until that point. And I don't have any of those injuries anymore. I don't have any of the pain from all those injuries. So it's quite amazing. So redox molecules help the cell not just function normally, but the way I think of it is, it helps the cell restore its full potential. So the cell is able to be and become everything it's capable of being and becoming, just like we all aspire to do.
Now that discomfort that you had, you said 56. So about when did you start noticing that turn, that change? Was it in the first 30 days, 90 days? Was that like your aha? Oh my gosh, what was ailing me at knee or shoulder or wherever, hip? Now I'm functioning better. Can you recall that gauge of time?
Yes. I have good memory because I drink Asea.
Mm.
Awesome.
So it's interesting. when we talk about health, we talk about the health of cells. And when we talk about the life of cells, we talk about the life cycle of cells. And there are some cells in our body that turn over every 3 to 5 days, but most of the cells of our body are on a 90 to 120 day life cycle. So it's really important, especially those people who are brand new to this, that you give this, once you decide you're going to put these molecules to work in your body, that you give it at least 3 months and preferably 6 months. Now, fortunately, I knew about the life cycle of cells when I got started. But honestly, I did not feel anything the first 30 days of my Asea Redox adventure. And
How much were you
that was
drinking, real
fun.
quick, Russell? How much
At
were you
that
drinking?
at that time, I was only doing 2 ounces twice a day, 4 ounces a
Okay.
day. And then in the second month, it wasn't anything dramatic, but I started to feel some subtle improvements. I thought I could smell the grass better. I thought I was sleeping better. I thought, little aches, and I felt a little more energy. But the big breakthrough, Anne, came when I attended the ASEA convention in August of 2011, because
Mm.
the company is so amazing and so generous. They literally had, free ASEA all over the place. Every room that we went into, there were these huge containers of the sport packs, the 8-ounce packs of ASEA. And I did not, prior to that time, I had no opportunity to consume more than 4 ounces of ASEA a day. So for the next 5 days, I probably drank 24 to 32 ounces of ASEA. And by the time I was on the flight home, I was feeling pretty good. And I remember when I got off the plane, Megan picked me up at the airport and she said, "Wow, what happened to you? You look great." So, and after that experience, I had all kinds of very important improvements. I had an injury to my shoulder and left arm from falling off a ladder 15 years earlier. I literally had a lot of discomfort all the time. I never took medication for it, but it left me with a very stiff arm, and it left me unable to make a fist. So for 15 years, I could not make a fist with this hand. But in the third or fourth month of drinking ASEA, one day I noticed that my hand was working again. So that was pretty amazing. After 15 years and being told by orthopedic surgeons that that was as good as it was going to get, that I had, my body had healed from that injury as much as it was going to heal. So there were other things that happened, but that was really pretty significant.
That's great.
Cool. Maureen, I'm not sure if you or Lee want to deal with this, but this, before it was ASEA, it was another company, and it was going to be a pharmaceutical drug. We're dealing with some people recently that they want to see what a scientific study. They want to see a published study. Can you kind of go over that? Why we won't do that? Either Maureen or Lee. Why it was going to be FDA drug, then because of something that can't be, and because honestly, I keep hearing, even with all these stories, it just sounds crazy to the average person listening that's visiting right now. They're going, "This is crazy. These guys are either being paid Maureen's probably being paid a boatload of money to say these wonderful things, and Russell, but doesn't it even still seem kind of hard to believe, Maureen?"
You know what? Every day I'm amazed by the stories I hear and what people
I know,
are
it's just
experiencing.
it's just nonstop. I mean, it's this, it's that, it's this. It doesn't matter if it involves a cell, and it just sounds
Too good to be
crazy, but
true.
it's real.
But we do have studies now, and as a matter of fact, Russell's been in, I was thinking about that. He's been in 14 years. I'll come up on 13 years at Thanksgiving. And there wasn't all that much as far as studies or even an understanding of how these work back then. We had the studies because it was owned by the medical company. It was a biotech company that was trying to get a classification as a new drug. They couldn't determine an LD50, which means that 50% of the animals that they gave it to would perish. and that would give them an idea of the toxic amount. When that happened, the FDA said, this is not a drug. At best, you have a supplement. And because there's more money in drugs than there are in supplements, excuse me, they lost their investors. Now, our founder, Virtus, that Russell was talking about at the beginning, had an incredible career as vice president of strategy for Kraft and General Foods for 35 years. Retired, worked for a biotech company under Dr. Narain Naidu, who a lot of people don't know who he is, but he's been nominated twice for Nobel Prizes in science. He is credited with eradicating E. coli or toxic shock syndrome from E. coli because he came up with a product called activated lactoferrin that was sprayed on meat before it went to market. So brilliant man. Virtus worked with him for 4 years, then came and sat on the board of this struggling biotech company. Little, too late. Really couldn't find any more money for them to do any more studies. And when they lost their investors, they were being sold off like a fire sale. And he said, I don't think they know what they have their hands on, and put together a group of investors, bought the rights to the technology, and then took it to a team of scientists to see if they could figure out how it worked and whether or not they could stabilize it so that you could replenish it. And that's the miracle. That's when the miracle happened, is when they were able to stabilize these incredibly fleeting, high energy molecules that should cancel each other out. And yet they were able to stabilize them in a solution, a saline solution, so that we can consume them and replenish these molecules. That's incredible. So the FDA knows about our products and they know about our company. And so we have to kind of stay under the radar a little bit. So we won't make any kind of medical claims with it, even though there's so many practitioners using it. So the studies that were originally done were all done on athletes. So it showed originally that they could run further, faster, longer. And that even animals that were given it, the mice that were given it, would run 29% further to exhaustion, which evidently the human athletes weren't willing to do. So that's what we started with. Now, about 8 years ago, I guess it's been, we had the Torrent Lab study that looked at gene expression or gene transcription for the different proteins. 100% of the participants in that actually had a 20 to 31% increase in the transcription of 5 beneficial genes. That kind of opened up the door. Now we have studies going on at, I think it's 10 different universities all around the world, with incredible results coming out of the University of Bath and some out of University of Western Sydney in Australia. We have a lot of white papers that kind of is a culmination or an overview of some of the research that's being done. But what people maybe are looking for that we don't have yet is peer-reviewed journal articles. And the reason for that is, number one, our company is not going to, it's very hard. Let me just back up a little bit. Dr. Lee can speak to this too. Very difficult to get something published. It takes years of, presenting it. I know because my husband publishes. My husband is a researcher. And, even his big publication, people don't realize that it was published probably 5 years after all of the research was done. It does not happen quickly, and it's very, very expensive. And our company does not want to publish their research in a throwaway journal. They want to go for one of the big ones. And so in order to get into Nature or Science or something that is really has a lot of credibility, you have to have some big numbers. So, they kind of play with that. Plus, in a lot of these publications and a lot of the research, you have to divulge information. You have to talk about materials and methods, about how you made these molecules. And these are closely guarded secrets. We're covered by 7 patents. That may not sound like a lot. They're layered, but they will expire or sunset. And then people have access to that information. We're also, guarded by thousands of trade secrets. So it's like Coca-Cola or KFC, right? Nobody's ever going to really know the recipe. And for 15 years now, nobody else has been able to copy it. Nobody else has been able to come up with these molecules. So we have a real advantage there. And that's also one of the reasons they're a little hesitant to go for full publication, because that would divulge that information to everybody else. And instead of just having Asea, you're going to get all sorts of copycats because then they would have the recipe. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, Lee.
That makes sense.
Lee, you want to add to that? Because again, I just still get shocked at how massive this is. And yet I'm still shocked that we don't have any competition yet. Because everything that's out there that's this big, China or someone over there is going to copycat it immediately. Does that still surprise you that we don't have any copycats on this? And doesn't that make it a little bit harder to take it to public when you only have one company doing this? Lee?
Well, if that's the intent, it's like we only have one company do it. But to your point, the fact that there isn't is kind of a witness or a testament to how sophisticated and how unique this is. I mean, this literally started in a biotech research lab. They were on their way to big pharma making drugs to deal with some very significant health issues. As Maureen said, it was a no-go because they couldn't get an LD50 established, so they flipped it to the supplement side and just found in a different way to put it into the marketplace, which is what we're enjoying right now. But to some of these other comments, and then I'd love to get Russell to take us into the gut a little bit with this. But the issue with this is we tend to have a mindset that we think it's a drug. We want it to act like a drug. We want it to fix, our several conditions, whether they're metabolic disorders or, whatever the disease process is. We think of that in the same language because we're so conditioned in our culture to think of when I take something that should fix X, Y, or Z. Again, as we pointed out in the front, this is a cellular health supplement. It's aimed to help electrons move better inside the cell. That's the whole point. It's a signaling mechanism. It's what turns on the processes that our body uses to heal from the inside out. If I need a drug to fix something, it's already too late. It's already failed. It's an intervention at that point. And so this goes back to the concept of what is prevention. If I can get upstream in the sequence, I can stop the cellular processes, or I can initiate the appropriate cellular processes that results in not needing medication. And so we kind of get taken sideways by everybody's comment about how I was able to, fix a certain condition because I took this. It's like, it's not because it was a drug and treated the condition. What it was a supplement that improved the cellular functioning, and it was activating pathway genes that turned on the longevity and the survival genes inside the cell. That's the whole point. And that's what's unique about this. And if you pay attention over the next 2 decades, you're going to see a lot of this coming, just from research medicine, because anti-aging is the next big thing. Well, we've had a decade and a half head start on that. So anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's gigantic now.
True.
So Russell, why are so many people dealing with gut issues? If you don't mind, kind of maybe explain. I've always heard the gut is what, the second brain, or Maureen, why are you
there's a very direct connection. The gut is considered to be the second brain because of the connection between the vagus nerve. But I've heard medical doctors and researchers say that this brain in the gut is superior to the brain in the head. And there's all kinds of theories about why that might be true. One of the things about the gut is that there are twice the number of nerve cells in the gut than there are in the normal nervous system, or as there are, throughout the body. So the gut is extremely sensitive. It's, for many, many years, Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, said, all disease begins in the gut. Well, the reverse of that is all health begins in the gut. So it's extremely important. Obviously, all the food that we eat, all the beverages we drink get processed through the digestive system. That's what we're calling the gut. And if that digestive system is not working properly, then you don't get the full benefits from the food you eat, the beverages you drink, the supplements you take. And so it's very important. Just to say something about what Lee and Maureen were saying, it's also important to remember that drugs, pharmaceuticals, are not nutrients. And every pharmaceutical, because of the mechanism of action, these are chemicals, these are not nutrients. There are always side effects. And even though we did not have the type of studies that we have today in Asea, one of the first studies that were done, and Maureen alluded to this, was a toxicity study. And the Asea did not go to market until they knew that the product they had was 100% safe. It could cause no harm. And then it was up to the people who got involved in the beginning to share that information and then to explain briefly, and again, the voice of explanation back in those days was Dr. Gary Samuelson. He wrote a beautiful little 80-page book called The Science of Healing Revealed, in which he describes what cells are and how they function and all the little biomechanics of cells, and then eventually what the role of redox signaling molecules are. So redox signaling molecules are involved with all activity, including all the activities involved in digestion, the breaking down of food, absorption, and assimilation of those nutrients into our liver, and from the liver to all the cells of our body. So, but the problems that arise in the gut are not just problems directly from the food we eat, but all those other environmental factors and lifestyle factors. When we are not making decisions all through the day that complement homeostasis, that allow for the restoration, maintenance, and optimization of all the functions of our body, then things are going in the opposite direction, towards dysfunction, and eventually towards degeneration, and eventually to dis-ease. And so the same is true in the gut. And for many people, I believe, the gut problems are becoming more and more prevalent because of the food supply. And one of the biggest culprits, one of the biggest villains in the food supply is a chemical called glyphosate. This is a pesticide sprayed on a lot of our food crops. The only way to protect ourselves from that type of chemical getting into our own body is to purchase organic quality food. That is the number one reason the food is clean, the food is free of these chemicals. And the organic farmer is actively building the health of the soil. You only get vitamins and minerals and amino acids in healthy food plants if you have mineral-rich soil growing the food in the first place. But just to tie that up with the glyphosate, one of the brand names is Roundup, so people are familiar with that. But the way that this chemical kills the bugs that are on the food crops is literally by exploding the little bugs' intestines. And so what I've heard scientists in seminars describe one of the causes of what we call inflammatory bowel disease as the long-term use of foods containing the pesticide glyphosate, that over time, that same pesticide residue will cause little holes in our intestines. So there is a direct connection with the food that we eat and our overall condition, but especially the condition of our digestive system and our intestines.
Hey, Russell,
yeah.
my understanding is that tons of glyphosate has been dumped into our soil already. So are you even safe with organic food? Because I'm sure there's some cross contamination.
That's a very good point, Maureen. So typically, a grower cannot gain organic certification unless the soil has been cultivated in a certain way for at least 5 years. I know in the early days of organic certification, it took a while for a variety of growers to get that initial certification. Now, of course, we have growers who have been organic for 15, 20, 30 years or more. So you want to find out the certification level, and that's the only guarantee that the soil has been years have gone by since those pesticides were put in, and the growers and the farmers have been meticulously focused on cleaning that soil and making that soil healthy. And of course, when they get that certification, there cannot be any traces of those pesticides, herbicides, and other toxins in the food.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me
Go ahead,
chip.
Lee.
This is a really important point in terms of the leaky gut issue in the gut, because these pesticides, including glyphosate, they affect the zonulin enzymes that deal with the Velcro attachment that's between the intestinal cells that line the intestinal wall. This is a 30-foot long, tube, a conveyor belt that runs through the body. And various sections of it have different pHs, that have different enzymes, have different proteins, have different compounds involved that help digest the food. And the important part of this is that in the poop, in the the fecal matter inside the intestine, right? It's like it's a vat of bacteria. This is really what makes this so fascinating to me. It's just a vat of bacteria that's eating stuff. And these bugs, these assortment of different bacteria, as they eat, if they're impacted by literally glyphosate, which is, he called it it kills the bugs. It's an antibiotic. It kills the microbes in the soil. Well, that's what's happening in your gut. We're affecting the microbes and the bio mass that's in the gut, and that impacts the cellular wall of the intestine, and it allows large particles, semi-digested particles, proteins and carbohydrates to penetrate through the intestinal barrier and get to the next zone across the intestinal wall to create inflammation. And so, where I hope this goes for you, Russell, is that we'll get into this mix of bacteria, because that's the essence of gut health, is having the proper mix or assortment of the kinds of bacteria. And we manipulate that not just through redox signaling molecules, but through the foods that we eat, the foods that our bugs are eating. When we eat, we're not eating for us, we're eating for the bugs. They're producing hormones and chemicals and vitamins and breaking down things, and it's the byproduct of that we then feast off of. We have to be good to our bugs.
Yeah, and this community of bugs that you're referring to, Dr. Lee, is called the microbiome, the gut microbiome or the intestinal microbiome. It's very important for people to understand that prior to the Industrial Revolution, which was not too long ago, around 1840, 1850, for thousands of years, human beings consumed organic food. There was no other kind of food. And the major place where human beings pick up their microbiome is from their mother when they are born vaginally through the birth canal. They pick up the mother's bacteria, and that becomes their microbiome. But aside from that, every time a person ate food from the beginning of civilization until fairly recently, there was soil on the food. Think of pulling a carrot out of the ground. People did not have a concept of bacteria, first of all, but there were soil organisms, soil bacteria in all of the food they were eating, and that was feeding their intestinal microbiome. So people had a tremendous variety and diversity of healthy organisms, and they did not have the kind of problems that we have today. So, Jim, you want to ask a question?
Well, I want to bring up the VIA line, but I want to ask Maureen a quick question. Um, the a lot of people will go out and do their own research, and they're going to potentially find things out there. Someone made a statement, a negative statement about Asea. Could you kind of address that if you don't mind? And Russell, I'm going to get back to you and Ann with the VIA line products, but why are there bad press out there, Maureen or Dr. Lee?
Uh, because there are people who compete in, for the benefits that we provide. So you're always going to see naysayers. You're always going to see people who come against things. And then there are people who are genuinely trying to protect other people. I know when it was first presented to me 13 years ago as salt water from Salt Lake City, and I live on an island, I was not I was not impressed. I was like, what will they come up with now? Bottled air, not sure. Of course, the first time I saw bottled water at the Olympics in 1996, I was like, are you kidding me? People are going to pay for water? Now look at him. So don't ask me. But anyway, when this first came into my life, as a physician, I'm a critical thinker, and I had never heard the verbiage redox signaling molecules. So to me, the first thing was, are these real? Is this a real entity that they're talking about? Well, there were 6,500 references to redox signaling on PubMed at that time. Now there's tens of thousands. Plus, what was really big for me was that my medical university, the Medical University of South Carolina, had just at that time gotten a $10.5 million NIH COBRA grant to study redox signaling in the body for all sorts of disease entities. Now that's within the body, not exogenous. But if you think about it, I went, okay, so they do exist. How do I know they're in the bottle? And if they're in the bottle, how do I know that they work the same way that the molecules that are innate to our bodies work? Well, now it's a little bit of a leap of faith back then, but now every single batch is certified as having a redox potential. And when we say redox potential, doesn't mean, oh, it potentially has redox in it. No, that has to do with the energy in it, sort of like a battery. What is that potential energy that is held by it? So each batch is certified by a third party that it contains trillions of these redox signaling molecules. And now we can see that there are changes in the transcription of genes by taking these products. Like I said, 100% of the participants, I think I said it here. I've done so many Zooms today, I can't remember what I said to whom. But we had the Tarrant Lab study that was done 8 years ago, and 100% of the participants that were on the product had a change in their gene transcription from 20 to 31% that went away when they went off the product. And the people who were the controls were drinking the saline that our product is made from. Starts with saline, they drive up the energy with electrolysis. What they end up with is something totally different. So if you take that these molecules are real, that they are in the bottle, that they do have an effect on the body, and it's all been positive, just like Russell said before, all of the studies, tens of millions of dollars were spent on safety studies, 100% non-toxic. And then the proof is in the pudding. Go to Redox, realredoxresults.com, 150 short video testimonials on all sorts of things. Jim, you're on there, right? Lee, I think you're on there too.
Yeah, and I always say there's going to be a boatload of negative poo-poo heads out there. They're going to want to poo-poo it. Just kind of ask yourself who might want to do that. And so, like what you said, Maureen, I'm sure you're getting ready to get attacked by your kitty cat. But you said it. The proof's in the pudding. The best way to figure out if it's real or not is get on it and get on it for 3 to 6 months. So, getting back to the gut, Russell.
Getting back to the gut. Let me say this, Jim. Let me
Yes,
jump
sir.
in here.
Yeah.
So when we think of the body, we think of cells. Most scientists agree that the human body is about 100 trillion cells, and that's a very big number. the number of individual bacterial organisms living in the gut, this 30-foot long tube that Dr. Lee referred to, 1,000 times 100 trillion cells in the gut that make up the gut microbiome. In an ideal digestive system, you're going to have 80% or more of those organisms be probiotics, healthy organisms. And if your gut is in that condition, 80% or more, you don't have any gut problems. And typically, you won't have any other health problems because 80% of the antibody producing components of our immune system are manufactured in the lining of the small intestine. So there's a direct connection between the health of the immune system and the health of the gut. But here's the most important thing, and this will what tie into inflammatory bowel conditions. The bugs just aren't sitting there. The bacteria aren't sitting there. They are all voracious eaters. The good bacteria and the bad bacteria. The good bacteria eats your food and eliminates waste products. The waste products of the healthy organisms are all health promoting, including regulating the pH, as Dr. Lee alluded to, including the production of natural antibiotics. The most powerful antibiotics ever discovered are made from the probiotics, from the healthy bacteria in our gut. All of our B vitamins are made from the healthy bacteria. And the B vitamins are essential components of our immune system. And on and on and on. So have that image that the healthy organisms produce healthy waste products that help everything in the body. Well, the opposite is true when we talk about the negative organisms, the pathological organisms, the dysbiotic organisms, bacteria, virus, yeast, mold, fungus, worms, parasites. There's all kinds of organisms that can be found in the gut. If the dominant bacteria are probiotics, 80% or more, you can have even up to 20% of all those other type of organisms in your system. They won't cause any problems. But what happens because of poor diet, because of stress, because of environmental factors, because of junk food, the balance between the good organisms and the bad organisms starts reversing. And once you get past 50-50, once you have 50% or more of the bad organisms in your system dominating, then you have a condition called intestinal dysbiosis. And what that means is the bad organisms have now taken over. The weeds have taken over the garden within. And those weeds aren't just sitting there passively observing. Those bad organisms eat your food and produce waste products. But the difference is the waste products from the bad organisms are toxic to your system. And the toxic waste products cause gas, bloating, cramping, loose, urgent, frequent bowel movements, or constipated bowel movements. And as Dr. Lee was saying, those toxic byproducts cause inflammation and loosen the tight junctions that keep the toxins inside your intestines, which is where they're supposed to stay. But if the inflammation becomes too great because of the dysbiosis, because of the overgrowth of the bad organisms, then you develop leaky gut. And the toxins become systemic. They enter your blood, they travel around your body, they cause aches and pains, they cause cramping in muscles, not in your intestines, but in your legs, in your calf, in your ankles, in your arm, in your feet. They cause cognitive problems. Many scientists believe that the whole Asperger's, autism, ADD, ADHD syndrome is a gut problem. Sleep problems, skin problems, everything is downstream of the microbiome. So when the microbiome is healthy, all those downstream areas will be healthy. But if the microbiome is dominated by these bad organisms constantly producing toxins and then becoming systemic through a leaky gut. It's a major cause of a long list of negative things, not just gut problems.
Yeah, let me chime in really quick because the question I can see people maybe asking is like, okay, you defined it really well, Russell. So now what do we do?
Yeah.
Well, what we do in conventional medicine is we give you drugs and medicines to see if we can't fix those problems. We want to symptom suppress the inflammatory response, et cetera, et cetera. So let me just to make this really simple, and you correct me if you think I'm off base here. Let's assume that this at the top end of at the 30-foot tube, this is my area up here. Let's say you're dumping, you just have to put a funnel there and you put sugar and refined flour in, and it just goes in. It now hits your stomach. It now goes to each successive step of the conveyor belt. As soon as it gets into the intestine, these dysbiotic or bad bacteria love this very refined sugar, refined flour, refined oils, and so forth. And they just eat it up like crazy. It's like jet fuel. It just combusts and burns it rapidly. And those nutrients, if you could call them that, or anti-nutrients, can't even get to the rest of the conveyor belt because they're all burned up right there. As opposed to if I were to take cauliflower, broccoli, very complex, unrefined carbohydrates, and this is just carbs we're talking about, and I put those in the funnel and they hit the conveyor belt. They hit the small intestine, and the bad bugs, they don't really like those. And so the food mass then passes down the conveyor belt. I'm now getting into the deeper parts of the intestine where healthy bacteria are more wont to live, and they start eating it up and releasing the glucose from those very slowly. And that is and so I'm favoring the part of the microbiome. The good bacteria outcompete the bad bacteria based on what we feed ourselves. That's the key. And you don't take
Correct.
drugs to fix that. All you're doing with drugs is you're masking the symptoms. And I'm not going to throw all that underneath the bus. That's not the point here. Because if that was me, I'd be going, I want relief today. But you have to go upstream in this process and start feeding the bugs what they demand if you want to be healthy.
Yeah,
And-
that's 100% correct. Everything that you put into your mouth, everything that you take in as food or beverage or supplements, you're either feeding the good bacteria and restoring your health, or you're feeding the bad bacteria and causing all kinds of problems. So in my practice, what I've seen is that some people can succeed in changing their diet because that's going to change the nature of the microbiome. And if their problems at the outset were minor, they can have significant improvement by changing their diet, getting on a good probiotic, possibly taking digestive enzymes, possibly taking a superfood. And we have these supplements in Asea. Source is our superfood. Biome is my favorite probiotic. You don't have to go any further. This is a full spectrum probiotic. Life Max, Omega. We have a full spectrum of nutritional supplements to complement the food you're eating, to complement the microbiome. So really, it is that simple. And there are just a tremendous number of stories indicating how much people can improve by a change of diet. I just want to throw in one thing because I know we're running out of time here. One of the things I've been most amazed at in the last 14 years when I go to Asea events, I'm always asking people to tell me their Asea story. And many people know I'm a gut health expert, so they come up to me and say, I had this inflammatory bowel condition and I didn't change my diet. I only added Asea and I got better. And in the beginning, I would think, how is that possible? Partly, the redox molecules know the difference between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and they feed the good bacteria. But another very important and possibly the most important reason why people can have an inflammatory condition, a gut inflammatory bowel condition, and the only change they've made is drinking Asea and get better, is because, as we know from one of the earliest studies, consuming even a small amount of Asea every day improves the production of the body's own endogenous antioxidant, anti-inflammatory substances like glutathione. If you look up the word glutathione online, you're going to see things like the master antioxidant, the master detoxifier. Many functional medical doctors say one of the precursors to all negative conditions is a decrease in the normal production of glutathione. So when you start on your Asea adventure, along many other benefits that you're going to experience, one of the most important ones is to increase your body's ability to produce more glutathione, and that's going to reduce inflammation in your body.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just going to add, yeah, that's great. I was just going to add, well, our bottle says it's going to work on the digestion. So we do know if you are new and you haven't been taking enough, or you want to consider taking more, if you're, challenged with a health issue or a specific gut, then consider taking more and taking it long enough. Utilize the Renew 28. Jerry White used to say, on 3 ways, he would say, you want to get more mobility, start putting the Renew 28 on the stomach, on those areas to get some movement. So, Renew does work twice as fast as the liquid molecules. And now our new gold, if you are, dealing with an issue, you want to improve your glutathione, I mean, the gold is going to make a difference to incorporate that. But the last point, as I know we're closing, is our whole VIA line works, synergetically with redox signaling. So if you're not on source and you want to get the digestive enzymes, they're in source. If you want to live longer or maybe improve your eyesight, there's specific things in LifeMax that are going to help on longevity. Obviously, biome with the slippery elm, there's healing properties by using our biome. And lastly, if you're struggling with too much 6 and 9 omegas, well, you really need our omega product, because that's going to give you the right amount of the 3s, the 5s, and 7s that your body really needs. So start incorporating that into your routine, and hopefully you'll start seeing some shifts in your health.
Touch on gold real quick, Russell. Sorry, Maureen.
Oh, well, my favorite new product, Redox Gold, is a concentration of certain redox signaling molecules specifically designed for inflammation in muscles, from overactivity or from injuries. And just in the last month, I've had, being up here in Canada, being outside all the time after sitting around most of the winter, I had a couple of days where I had a lot of sore muscles. And one day in particular, I had a very strange pain in my discomfort in my arch, in my foot. And I thought, what the heck? That is so weird. I put the Redox Gold on, and within an hour, that discomfort was gone, and it didn't come back the next day. So this is very amazing product for sure. All the products are compatible with redox signaling. And by enhancing redox signaling throughout your body, you're enabling, empowering your body to perform the way it was designed to perform. I love to say that when you restore normal functioning to your body, that means there are no negative symptoms. That's normal functioning. That's not even optimal functioning. So through hydration, through better diet, through proper supplementation, through redox signaling, we can restore function to our cells, and we can live younger, healthier, longer.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Great night.
Well, guys, that was a lot. We need to have you back more often, Russell. There's just too much more we wanted to dig into. Thank you, Maureen. Thanks, Lee. Is there anything you want to add, Maureen or Lee, real quick?
Oh, no, it's just to answer your question on people get confused about the difference between Asea and Renew 28 and Redox Gold. Redox Gold, the addition of gold as a catalyst changes the benefit profile. So they are not the same products, and they do not have the same benefits. Gold is laser focused on inflammation and relief. But it won't take care of your wrinkles. Although somebody was saying that they thought it was tightening up their skin. I think it's kind of drying. So, but I don't know. It's worth giving a try. But you know, you have to use all of the above. But that's all I'm going to say because it's 8:05 and we want you guys to have the rest of your evening off.
Right.
Lee?
Oh, just thanks, Russell. You've always been a highlight. The gut is such a central. One of the things I've noticed from comments and reactions and the viewership on the video afterwards is that everybody has a very keen interest in gut health because it affects everybody.
Well, it upsets your life to the extreme. So anyway, guys, thank you. What are you looking at me funny for, Maureen?
Oh, no, I was just thinking I really wanted to ask about gluten. I don't want to bring it up as we're going out the door.
Well,
maybe on your next visit, Russell.
Very briefly, Maureen, many people have come to me with gluten sensitivity and celiac disease. And in every situation, it was not specifically a reaction to, it was because their microbiome was unhealthy. Once that microbiome was restored to health, they could tolerate healthy quality gluten and things like that. I did a seminar the other night called The Gut Rules. And what I said was basically the gut rules your life for better or for worse. And so it behooves you to learn what the gut rules are. And the gut rules meaning, what do I eat? What supplements to take? How do I restore my gut health? Because when you do that, you're a lot happier and healthier person.
Like the rules of the
thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Thanks, guys.
Real quick, next week we've got Hunter Dean. We'll probably dig in a little bit more into this Redox stuff with the Redox Gold and the Renew. So, guys, thank you. The recording will be up on Redox Matters probably within the hour. Please feel free to share it with anybody and everybody. God bless. We'll be back next week.
See you in a week.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
Guys, bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you.
Bye.